Hi, Stephanie. How are you?
Great. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate it. Nice to see you.
So glad to be here. So thanks for having me.
So, you're a best selling author, mystery and romance novels. How many have you written? Or, you know what? I keep screwing that up because when I ask authors how many they've written, I always get the response back, how many have I written or how many have I published? Because most of the time it's a very different number for a lot of authors. So, let me start that again. How many have you published?
I don't keep track because I just put out a lot and during different times, but I estimated around 50 as of whenever my bio was last written. So somewhere around there, some are longer, some are shorter. I have published somewhere around that. A lot of those have been under my pen names that most people don't know and shall never know. But and then if you were to look at my websites now, there's, gosh, I don't know, 20,
Okay.
25, something like that.
All right. Let me ask you something about pen name. Now, that's different than a ghostwriter. A pen name is just you use a different name, but you write the book, right?
Pen names are used for a lot of different reasons. I had my own reasons for using pen names. Um, Sometimes it's just to differentiate between genres for a writer. Sometimes it's for anonymity. Um, Mine was kind of a combination of both of those. So yeah, pen name is almost like you're creating an author brand so that people can identify the type of books that that writer or that author brand will produce.
Why does an author have to stick to one particular genre? And if you write in multiple genres, is it really necessary to use a different name?
100% no. Like there are so many schools of thought on this, and I really think it's a pretty personal decision, and it might change over time. It's changed for me. I think it changes for a lot of people. You might have someone who's a super prolific writer like Nora Roberts, and at some point there was a decision made, at least from what I've read. I am not currently friends with her. If she and I become friends, I'll let you know her take on this. But when we become friends, so she writes one of her series under J.D. Robb, and that's because it's just a lot different than her other series. She actually writes most under Nora Roberts from what I'm familiar with, and then that one series under J.D. Robb, and everyone knows it's her, but it differentiates the brand. She's a very successful writer, and she can pretty much write all of her books, even if they're in different subgenres, under her name. Some people really like to chop it up because if you say write paranormal, like steamy paranormal books, and you also write clean and wholesome romance, a reader may be used to your light and happy books and then read one of your steamy, salacious books and be totally thrown off. And so people do it for all of those reasons. That way they know if they're getting a, you know, Alpha Rogers book, that is not a name, but, as opposed to Jenny Rogers, that those are two different brands. So
Okay.
there's just a lot of different ways to do it.
Well, that does make sense because you really don't know what the book's going to be about until you start reading it. It's not quite like a painting where you look at it and it's a beautiful landscape and the next painting is a nude. You know what you're getting right away if that's what you want in your living room. But with a book, you don't really know until you kind of dig into it, right? I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, and especially with really broad categories like romance or like genre fiction, where there's every level of what we call heat. Heat levels from they might hold hands in the book to they're doing a lot more than holding hands throughout the book, and there's everything in between. And usually you're going to try to indicate that with the cover and the blurb to the book description. But if you've always written one type of book and you decide to make a leap to a different style of book, you can really shock your loyal readers. Again, I don't think there's a right and wrong. It really depends on your own needs as an author. And for me, a lot of it was anonymity during a time when I needed that, and in exploring different genres to figure out what I wanted to write. So that's why I did it that way. But everyone has a reason.
Harlequin romance is probably one of the more famous. That would be a brand, I assume, yeah?
Yeah, they're a publishing brand.
Publishing brand. Okay. Now, I've never read one, but my grandmother used to be addicted to those books. How hot or how much heat are in those books?
I have not read a lot of Harlequin romance, but I'm very familiar. We were actually just having a conversation about Harlequin 2 days ago with one of my friends, because one of her book series is published by Harlequin. I think that they're a publisher, and they also, kind of like Penguin Random House or anyone like that, they have a lot of different types of authors. And I could be wrong, but I'm fairly certain that they have a lot of different, heat or steam levels within. If you're reading a mail order bride historical, it might be more clean and wholesome, like less or sweet, with nothing like that in it. Or it might be like a Randy Harlequin romance romp.
Okay. So within the Harlequin series, it could be varying degrees of heat. Yeah.
I believe so.
Okay. All right. Well,
I'm not the expert on it though, but I'm fairly certain.
that's good to know in case I ever decide I want to get one at the airport. Um,
Yeah. Check the back cover.
yeah. Check. So, how about your books?
I have written all over. What I focus on right now and going forward, my romance is small town charm and sweet romance. So it is on the light and beachy end of kind of feel good romance. So it's more about the relationship and the romance and having hope and fun things like that. And then my mystery, somewhat similarly, are kind of more of a fun, colorful, quirky mystery. There's also so many subgenres and things within in each of those genres that it's really hard. But I'd say my writing in general is pretty upbeat and more fun page turners is what I'm going for.
Okay. What is your latest book? What is the title?
My latest romance. Oh wait, sorry. My latest book. I published a lot of books.
That's okay.
Is Headlines, Deadlines, and Lies. And actually, that's a pretty interesting. It was a crossover between my two audiences, between my sweet romance and my mystery, because I am just starting to build my mystery brand now. I've been focusing on romance for the last couple of years while I learned more about the business and just sort of figured everything out so that I could go full steam in mystery. But that one is kind of a light genealogical mystery with some sweet romance thrown in as sort of a subplot. It's not even really a subplot, but as part of it.
Are you self-published or are you traditionally published?
No, I've never. I did go down the regular publishing route a long time ago and had a deal and that I didn't go with, and I just decided I wanted to have control over my career at leading up to this point. I'll probably do some version of hybrid publishing, but currently I self-publish or indie publish. I work with some other people, but I really enjoy the ability to be able to have control and build the brand in your business into whatever I want it to be or how big you want it to be, and it's been a fantastic experience.
So you have to have somebody else to do your cover art, right?
I have a design background, so
Oh, you do them yourself?
I've hired cover designers several times. Even last night, I'm like, I really need to reach out and try and find a good cover designer again for my upcoming books, because they just take a lot of time, and it is an art and science to some degree. And so I've done a lot of my covers. I've had some of my covers done, but I do still have a team, whether it's cover designers, editors, and I do a lot of marketing, and there's different people I work with, some for marketing, some stuff I do on my own, there's a lot that goes into it. A lot of people touch a book before it makes it to market.
Are the pictures that are on the romance novels, are those real people? Are they models, or are they just artists' conceptions of people?
Most of the time they're real people. Most of the time they're stock models or hired models. I think in some of the books, maybe like an old Harlequin, they'll do an artistic retouching. The Fabio days
Fabio days,
from.
right, right.
But most of the time, I think most of the time the pictures are stock models or paid models for cover art, and sometimes illustrations. Those are made up.
How does one become a stock model? Do you have any idea?
Do you want to model for one of my books? Because we can make it happen for you.
Oh God, no, not me. But how does anybody do it?
I used to work in film and television for a long time, and I think probably the same way you get into regular modeling,
Okay.
there's agencies, and I was actually a photographer for a long time as well. There are certain photographers who specialize in stock footage, and so they will usually do casting calls, and a lot of times there are incredibly attractive or interesting or likable or weird looking people, in the best ways. And they're not going to be a runway model, but we still want to, see them for all their wonderful glory. And so they end up becoming stock models probably by, there's industries, you can go online and you can register with an agency, or you get in with a photographer who specializes in stock pictures, and they'll have you running through a field hand in hand, and then you'll be in the winter, like having hot chocolate by a fire, and then you'll be, swinging on a swing in a fall day. So
But you brought up an interesting point about people, because people are so different. I mean, in appearance and in abilities, and people have all different skill sets. And you think about the runway model. The runway model has to sort of be from head to toe, okay? But like a face model, somebody could have a really beautiful face, and from the neck down, maybe not so good. Or maybe they walk with a limp, and they wouldn't be suitable for a runway model, but they could be a face model. Some people have beautiful hands that they could use for hand models, or feet, I mean, whatever, right? So yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to think
I
about
used
that.
to work at a tabletop studio. Well, we did a lot of things, a production studio, when I lived in New York, and we did a lot of what's called tabletop. We had a lot of clients for makeup, and then a lot for food establishments. So say it was a fast food restaurant or a frozen pizza company, they usually have a lot of things in, or dish soap. I remember that was one. We did a lot, Dawn or something like that. And you'd have hand models, and they come in and they have incredible hands, and they know how to use them within the shot and stay out of the shot perfectly. And so, yeah, there is definitely a need for all kinds of faces, all kinds of bodies, all kinds of hair and limbs and voices.
Exactly.
It's very cool.
Yeah,
It makes our world so interesting.
it does indeed. Stephanie, we do have to wrap this up. We are out of time. Do you have a website that you want to give out?
Sure, you can always go to stephanielavigne.com, and that will bring you to my little portal of the world, or any of your favorite online places, Amazon, BookBub, Goodreads, Instagram, any of those places. You can look me up and say hello.
Okay, great. Thanks so much for coming on. It was nice meeting you. This was a nice conversation, very light and